A corroded lump from an ancient shipwreck holds a secret that rewrites history. This is the mechanism, an ancient Greek device so advanced it seems impossible for its time. By the end of this, you will understand how a 2,000-year-old civilization built the world's first known computer. We will uncover how its intricate bronze gears predicted cosmic events and explore why such brilliant technology vanished for over a millennium. What does this one mysterious object tell us about the fragility of human knowledge? The year was 1900, and the Mediterranean was calm. A crew of Greek sponge divers, working near the tiny island was searching the seabed for their livelihood. What they found instead would change our view of history forever. Their lead diver, Elias, surfaced from the murky depth with a story that seemed. He described a chaotic scene of human forms and horses lying scattered on a ghostly tableau over 180 feet below. At first, his captain thought the nitrogen in his blood was playing tricks, a diver's hallucination. But when they went down together, they saw it was all real. They had discovered an ancient Roman shipwreck, a colossal vessel that had sunk while carrying a priceless cargo of Greek art and treasures, likely bound for a wealthy patron in Rome. The world's first major underwater archaeological excavation began, hauling up breathtaking bronze and marble statues, delicate glassware, and coins that dated the wreck to around 60 years before the Common Era. But amid these obvious masterpieces, a less glamorous find was carefully packed into a crate. It was a lump of heavily corroded bronze and wood, about the size of a large book, which had broken into several pieces. It looked like a piece of junk, a corroded gear fused to a rock. For nearly 2 years, it sat in the back rooms of the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, utterly overshadowed by the majestic statues. No one could have guessed that this unassuming, crumbling fragment was, in fact, the single most sophisticated object to survive from the ancient world. It was a time capsule, not of art, but of a mind-bendingly advanced scientific understanding that we had long believed impossible for its time. The ship itself was a clue. Sailing in the 1st century before the Common Era, it was a period when the Roman Republic was ascendant, actively importing the cultural and intellectual wealth of the conquered Greek world. This mechanism wasn't a Roman invention. It was a Hellenistic masterpiece, a peak of Greek scientific engineering being shipped as the ultimate trophy. Its presence on that vessel hints at a hidden world of knowledge, a technological lineage that was being physically transported from one empire to another, right before it was lost to the sea and to history. For 2,000 years, the real mystery was only just beginning, locked inside those green, calcified gears. For decades, the artifact was catalogued simply as a piece of corroded bronze, a geological oddity pulled from the sea. To the curators in Athens, it resembled nothing more than a lump of rock or the ruined base of some forgotten statue. The wood that had once housed it was gone, replaced by a hard, shell-like layer of marine limestone that encased the metal within. It was, by all appearances, a dead end. This unassuming fragment held its secret close, hidden beneath centuries of calcification, waiting for someone to look past its rough exterior and see the ghost of a machine. The breakthrough began not with a dramatic revelation, but with a slow, patient curiosity. In the 1950s, a British science historian named J. Price took an interest in the strange object. While visiting the museum, he wasn't looking at the beautiful statues. He was drawn to this peculiar, forgotten lump. Using the newly developed technology of gamma radiography, which allowed him to peer inside the stone-like mass without damaging it, Price saw the first glimpses of the truth. Hidden within were the faint outlines of gears, precise, toothed wheels arranged in a complex configuration. His mind raced. This wasn't a statue fragment, it wasn't an astrolabe, it wasn't anything previously known from the ancient world. The arrangement of gears suggested calculation, a mechanical purpose. Price's realization was a monumental shift in perspective. He was looking at the skeleton of a device, a manufactured instrument of extraordinary complexity. His initial studies, published in the 1970s, proposed a bold idea that this was a calendrical computer of some kind. He called it the earliest known surviving example of a scientific instrument. This moment of reclassification is profound. It shows how easily we can overlook revolution when it doesn't match our expectations. For half a century, experts had walked past this object because it didn't fit the narrative of ancient technology. It was an anomaly, and anomalies are often filed away as mistakes. Price's work began the process of pulling this anomaly into the light, forcing history to make room for a new chapter, one written not in words, but in intricate, interlocking bronze gears. Price's gamma-ray images revealed a ghost in the machine. Beneath that crust of limestone and corrosion, the faint outlines emerged, not of a solid object, but of a delicate assembly. He saw gears, dozens of them, interlocked in a configuration that spoke of intentional, sophisticated design. Some of these bronze wheels were tiny, no larger than a modern coin, yet they were cut with precise, triangular teeth. This was not decorative, it was functional engineering on a miniature scale. In his seminal paper, titled Gears from the Greeks, Price made a bold and definitive argument. This was not an astrolabe or a simple sundial. It was an ancient analog computer, a mechanical model built to calculate and display the motions of the heavens. His conclusion was a paradigm shift. The mechanism was suddenly reclassified from a maritime oddity to a pivotal artifact in the entire history of human technology. It was as if we had been studying ancient civilization through the lens of its poetry and pottery, and someone had just handed us a circuit board. Price's work forced a fundamental question into the open. If this one device, this single data point, demonstrated such an advanced understanding of mechanics and astronomy, what did it imply about the world that created it? His revelation was the key that unlocked the modern investigation, transforming the mechanism from a static museum piece into an active, urgent puzzle. The calcified lump now had a name and a purpose, and it demanded a new generation of tools to decipher its secrets. But seeing the ghost of a machine is one thing, understanding its mind is another. The true decoding of the mechanism began in earnest at the dawn of a new millennium, when a collaborative international team brought 21st century eyes to this 2,000-year-old puzzle. They employed a technology called X-ray computed tomography, a process that works like a superpowered medical scan. By taking thousands of razor-thin X-ray slices through each fragment, they could peer through the solid limestone and corrosion as if it were glass. This invasive technique was a revelation. It meant they could explore the device's deepest secrets without ever touching a chisel to its fragile surface, preserving every atom of evidence for future generations. The digital models that emerged were breathtaking. Suddenly, gears that had been completely invisible to Price were revealed, nestled inside the mass. Researchers could now count individual teeth on wheels smaller than a centimeter across, and precisely measure the ratios between interlocking gears. They could trace the paths of axles and see how motion was transferred from one part of the machine to another. Most astonishingly, the tomography picked up the faintest traces of engraved text, letters only a millimeter or two high that had been hidden for centuries inside the folded, corroded metal. This was the equivalent of finding the user manual etched into the device's very bones. For the first time, We weren't just looking at a mysterious object, we were digitally dissecting a working blueprint. This process transformed the mechanism from an archaeological artifact into a solvable engineering diagram. It allowed researchers to move from asking what it might be to understanding precisely how it functioned. They could now follow the logic of its design, gear by meticulous gear, and begin to hear the silent calculations it was built to perform. The ghost in the machine finally had a voice, and it was about to tell us its purpose. The ghost in the machine finally had a voice, and it was about to tell us its purpose. What the tomography scans revealed was nothing short of an ancient user manual, meticulously engraved onto the bronze plates and protective covers of the device itself. There, in letters sometimes just a single millimeter high, were over 3,000 characters of Greek text, a technical guide waiting to be read after 2 of silence. Specialists in ancient writing began the painstaking work of deciphering these microscopic inscriptions, and the words they uncovered were a direct line to the mechanism's creators. The text wasn't poetry or myth, it was precise, functional language. It named celestial cycles and contained terms for planetary movements. It listed the names of months and detailed the timing of significant athletic contests, the Pan-Hellenic Games like the famed Olympics held every 4 years. This was a profound clue. The device wasn't just tracking the sun and moon, it was synchronizing the grand, predictable clockwork of the cosmos with the rhythm of human society, linking the celestial with the civic. Imagine a modern calendar that not only shows the phases of the moon, but also automatically highlights the dates of the World Cup or the next Olympic Games, all calculated mechanically. That's the level of integrated thinking this manual implies. The inscriptions served a dual purpose. They were labels for the device's complex outputs, telling a user what each dial and pointer meant, but they were also a philosophical statement. They framed the universe as an ordered, comprehensible system, one that humanity could not only observe but actively model with crafted bronze. This tiny engraved manual is our most crucial evidence. It confirms, beyond any doubt, the mechanism's role as a sophisticated astronomical calculator. But more than that, it offers a fleeting glimpse into the minds of its makers and the needs of its users. Who was this built for? Perhaps a temple to schedule religious festivals tied to the stars. Maybe a wealthy patron or a scholarly institution, a tool for both demonstration and discovery. The text doesn't just explain gears, it guides us toward the lost cultural context, a world where engineering, science, and a desire to find human meaning in the heavens were seamlessly woven together. The inscriptions were a guidebook, but the true genius lay in the silent choreography of the gears. This was a machine built to think in cycles, to translate the grand, sweeping rhythms of the cosmos into the steady, predictable turn of a hand crank. At its core, the mechanism was a mechanical universe in miniature. A user would select a future date on its main dial, perhaps the date of an upcoming festival or a planned voyage. Then, by turning a small handle on the side, they would set the entire system in motion. As the input crank turned, a complex symphony of interlocked bronze gears began to calculate. Dozens of precisely cut wheels, each with a specific number of teeth, meshed together to perform a kind of physical mathematics. Their rotations, transferred through a forest of axles, drove pointers across several different dials on the device's face. One hand showed the position of the sun against the backdrop of the zodiac constellations. Another, more intricate assembly tracked the moon, not just its position but its phase, displaying a beautiful, rotating black and white sphere that would wax and wane in perfect sync with the night sky. But the mechanism's ambition went far beyond simple tracking. It was built to predict, One of its most celebrated functions was eclipse prediction. By modeling the complex cycles of the sun and moon, the gears could indicate when these two bodies would align perfectly with the Earth, forecasting both solar and lunar eclipses years in advance. This wasn't magic, it was mechanical foresight, a product of generations of astronomical observation encoded into metal. Perhaps its most sophisticated trick was modeling what astronomers call lunar anomaly, the fact that the moon does not orbit Earth at a constant speed. Because its orbit is slightly elliptical, the moon appears to speed up and slow down in a predictable pattern. The Greeks knew this, and the mechanism's designers replicated this irregular motion with breathtaking elegance. They used a brilliant setup called an epicyclic gear train, a pin-and-slot device that allowed a gear to vary its speed as it turned. This meant the moon pointer on the dial didn't just move in a steady circle. It accelerated and decelerated in a gentle, wobbling dance that mirrored the moon's actual journey across the sky. To put this in modern terms, imagine a mechanical calendar on your desk. You set it to a date next year, and not only does it show you the day of the week, but it also displays the exact positions of Mars and Venus in the night sky, tells you the moon's phase, and flashes a small warning light for any solar eclipses expected in your region. That is the level of integrated, multi-purpose calculation this 2,000-year-old device performed. It was a compact orrery, a planetarium, and an eclipse calculator all in one, a tangible expression of a profound idea that the universe operates on rules we can understand, capture, and even replicate with our own hands. The true marvel of this device lies in its physical construction, a feat of microengineering that still inspires awe. Within the surviving fragments, researchers have identified the clear remains of at least 30 separate bronze gears, all designed to mesh together with astonishing precision. Based on the layout and the spaces left empty, experts now believe the complete mechanism originally contained more than 70 of these intricate components. Each gear was painstakingly cast and then hand-finished, with teeth cut at a precise 60-degree angle. This specific angle wasn't an aesthetic choice. It was a functional one, engineered to minimize slippage and reduce wear as the gears turned against each other for years, perhaps even decades. This attention to longevity tells us the makers weren't just building a demonstration model. They were crafting a reliable instrument meant for sustained, practical use. But one gear assembly stands out as a particular stroke of genius, a component so advanced it would not appear again in any surviving mechanism for over 1,500 years. This is the differential gear. In its simplest terms, a differential is a special arrangement of gears that can add or subtract two different rotational speeds to produce a third, combined output. In the mechanism, this brilliant assembly was the heart of its most elegant trick, modeling the moon's variable speed, that gentle wobble in its orbit. One input gear brought in the moon's average motion, another brought in a correction cycle, and the differential gear combined them, subtracting one from the other to make the final pointer on the dial speed up and slow down, in perfect mimicry of the real moon. Before this discovery, historians of technology credited the invention of the differential gear to the 16th century, perhaps for use in complex clocks or early mechanical calculators. Finding one in a device from the 1st century before the Common Era is like finding a microchip in a medieval manuscript. It completely resets our timeline for human innovation. The sheer miniaturization and precision required to create these components speaks to a lost world of craftsmanship and theoretical knowledge. These weren't crude, hammered metal discs. They were finely machined components, some with teeth spaced just a millimeter apart. To achieve this, the makers needed a deep, working understanding of metallurgy to create a durable, yet workable bronze alloy. They needed advanced tools for cutting and finishing, likely small files and drills powered by hand or bow. Most importantly, they needed a comprehensive mathematical blueprint, a gear-train plan that translated complex astronomical ratios into specific numbers of teeth on specific wheels. The existence of this single device implies a whole supporting ecosystem, a tradition of precision metalworking and theoretical mechanics that was clearly mature, sophisticated, and widespread enough to produce such an object. And then, this entire technological tradition seems to vanish from the material record. The gears fall silent, the knowledge of how to make them fades, leaving this one salvaged machine as a solitary, brilliant echo of a capability the world would have to painfully reinvent, century by distant century. The mechanism's genius was not just in tracking the sky, but in reconciling it with the earthbound calendar. One of its largest and most prominent dials was dedicated to solving a problem that had challenged priests, farmers, and kings for centuries: the mismatch between the moon's cycles and the sun's year. Our modern calendar follows the sun, but many ancient societies, including the Greeks, organized their lives, festivals, and harvests by the moon. A lunar month is about 29.5 days, so 12 of these months only add up to 354 days, falling roughly 11 days short of the solar year. If you just kept counting lunar months, your seasons would slowly drift through the calendar. A festival meant for spring would eventually arrive in the dead of winter. The mechanism's creators encoded the brilliant solution to this drift, a long-term pattern known today as the metonic cycle. They knew that every 19 solar years, the phases of the moon realign almost perfectly with the same calendar dates. This 19-year period contains exactly 235 lunar months. By having a dedicated hand on the main dial sweep through a spiral track over those 19 years, the device provided a master schedule. A priest could look at it and know, with mechanical certainty, exactly when the next new moon would fall years in advance, allowing him to set the date for a crucial religious observance. A farmer could plan for the optimal planting or harvest time tied to both the moon and the season. This was more than an astronomical trick. It was a tool of social and economic stability, harmonizing the celestial clock with the human one. But the Greeks, always refining their knowledge, had observed an even deeper pattern. The 19-year metonic cycle is very good, but not perfect. It's off by about 2 hours. So a later astronomer named proposed a refinement, multiplying the cycle by 4 to create a 76-year period that corrected that tiny error. Evidence from the tomography scans suggests a smaller, subsidiary dial on the mechanism tracked this cycle. Think of it this way: the main metonic dial gave you a reliable 19-year calendar, good enough for most purposes. But the smaller dial was like a master reset, a long-term calibration that kept the entire system accurate over generations. The inclusion of both cycles in one machine is a staggering display of intellectual ambition. It tells us the designers were just building a calculator for the present. They were engineering a device with generational memory, one that acknowledged and corrected for imperfections over a human lifetime. This drive to model cosmic time with such layered precision reveals a profound cultural mindset, where understanding the order of the heavens was directly linked to creating order in society. From the timing of sacred games to the rhythms of the harvest, the mechanism didn't just show time, it reconciled different kinds of time, weaving them into a single, elegant, mechanical truth. Yet the mechanism's ambition reached beyond cycles we can see. into the realm of celestial shadows. On the back of the device, opposite its calendar displays, lay its most dramatic and perhaps most powerful function, a large spiral dial dedicated entirely to the prediction of eclipses. In the ancient world, a solar or lunar eclipse was a moment of profound awe and often deep fear. It was interpreted as a direct message from the gods, a portent of a king's downfall, a sign of coming conflict or hardship. To witness the sun being swallowed by darkness was to experience the apparent unraveling of cosmic order itself. This spiral dial, known today as the Saros dial, represented a radical intellectual revolution, a move to strip that fear away through pure, mechanical foresight. The dial was based on a long-observed astronomical pattern called the Saros cycle, a period of approximately 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. After this interval, the Sun, Moon, and Earth return to nearly the same geometric alignment, and a similar eclipse will occur. The cycle is not perfect. The alignment shifts slightly each time, meaning eclipses eventually fade out of the pattern, but for generations, it provides a remarkably reliable long-term forecast. The genius of the mechanism was to make this abstract cycle tangible. A pointer would slowly travel along the grooves of this spiral over those 18 years. And etched into the bronze along the spiral's path were small glyphs, inscriptions that served as a celestial warning system. Each glyph corresponded to a specific month within the Saros cycle. Some were marked with symbols indicating a likely solar eclipse, others for a lunar eclipse. Even more astonishing, some included letters from the Greek alphabet that scholars believe indicated the time of day the eclipse was predicted to happen, whether in the morning, afternoon, or night. Think of the psychological power this granted its user. While the general public might see a sudden eclipse as a terrifying omen, the keeper of this device would have known it was coming for years. He could have marked it on his calendar, prepared the community, perhaps even staged a ceremonial observation. This transforms an eclipse from a chaotic supernatural event into a scheduled natural phenomenon. It represents a fundamental shift in human consciousness, from a universe ruled by capricious gods to a cosmos governed by comprehensible, predictable rules. The Saros dial is the ultimate expression of the mechanism's purpose. It wasn't just a calculator, it was a tool for mastering time and taming the unknown. Turning the greatest celestial drama into a line of text on a bronze dial, waiting patiently for its moment to arrive. But the mechanism was not just a cold calculator of celestial mechanics, it was a cultural compass. On the reverse side, nestled beside the eclipse predictor, another spiral dial performed a very different kind of tracking. This was the Olympiad dial, a dedicated calendar for the great athletic festivals that defined Greek identity. Every 4 years, the most skilled athletes from across the Hellenistic world would gather to compete in sacred games held in honor of the gods. The most famous were, of course, the Olympic Games at Olympia, but there were 3 other major cycles, the Pythian and Isthmian Games. This dial kept track of all of them, a rotating schedule of human excellence synchronized with the gears of the cosmos. With a turn of the crank, a user could see not only when the next full moon would rise, but when the next Olympic torch would be lit. This feature transforms our understanding of the device entirely. It moves it from the realm of pure science into the heart of Greek social and religious life. The games were far more than sporting events. They were profound religious festivals, times of truce, where city-states set aside conflict to honor Zeus and the other deities through competition. By incorporating this cycle, the mechanism's designers were making a powerful statement that the rhythms of human celebration were as worthy of precise mechanical notation as the orbit of the moon. It suggests the owner of this device was someone deeply embedded in that culture, perhaps a priest responsible for scheduling the games and their associated ceremonies, or a wealthy patron and enthusiast who traveled to attend them. Imagine a modern device that combined an astronomical almanac with a digital calendar, automatically populated with the dates of the next World Cup, the Summer Olympics, and the Super Bowl for decades to come. That is the blend of interests this dial represents. It reveals the mechanism as a true unifier of knowledge. On one side, it modeled the grand, impersonal clockwork of the heavens. On the other, it counted down to the pinnacle of human physical achievement and communal worship. This wasn't a mere calculator, it was a philosophical object, a tangible expression of the Greek ideal that sought harmony between the cosmic order and human society, between the gods above and the games below. Yet the mechanism's ambition may have reached beyond the moon and sun, into the wandering stars. While the surviving gears clearly model our two great celestial companions, a tantalizing mystery lies in the empty spaces and cryptic inscriptions on the device's main face. These clues strongly suggest the original machine also displayed the movements of the 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. To include them would have transformed the device from an advanced calendar into something truly breathtaking, a complete mechanical model of the entire known cosmos, a working orrery of the ancient world. The challenge, however, was monumental. Unlike the sun and moon, which move steadily eastward against the stars, planets perform a strange and bewildering dance. For most of the year, a planet like Mars will drift eastward, but then it will pause, reverse course, and loop backward for a few weeks in what astronomers call retrograde motion, before resuming its original path. To the Greeks, this erratic behavior was a profound puzzle, one that any serious cosmic model had to explain. Replicating this looping motion with simple, rotating gears is an engineering problem of staggering complexity. How could a single turning axle make a pointer advance, slow, reverse, and then advance again? Some researchers studying the fragments believe the answer lay in a brilliant, layered use of epicyclic gearing, the same pin-and-slot concept used for the moon's variable speed, but taken to a whole new level. In this proposed system, a planet's pointer would be driven by not one, but 2 separate gear trains combined. One gear would carry the pointer around the dial at the planet's average speed. A second, smaller epicyclic gear, mounted on that first one, would add a gentle back-and-forth wobble. When combined through a differential system, these 2 motions would make the pointer trace that characteristic loop in the sky, all from the steady turn of a single input crank. This idea of explaining planetary motion with combinations of circles, called epicycles, was later mathematically formalized by the astronomer Ptolemy in the 2nd century. Finding its potential mechanical embodiment in a device from a century or 2 earlier is a staggering thought. It means the Greeks weren't just theorizing about the heavens, they were attempting to build their theories in bronze, to feel the truth of the cosmos turn in their hands. The empty spaces on the front plate, the ghostly outlines of missing gear assemblies, and the inscriptions that name the planets, all whisper of this lost grandeur. The full reconstruction of these planetary displays remains one of the most active and debated areas of research. Each new proposed gear train is a tribute to the audacious genius of its creators, who may have built not just a calculator, but a miniature, ticking universe. But who was the mind behind this miniature cosmos? While no signature is etched into the bronze, the mechanism itself whispers clues about its origins. Scholars, acting as historical detectives, have pieced together several compelling theories based on its staggering sophistication and the style of its tiny inscriptions. The leading candidate points to a specific intellectual hub, the school of the philosopher on the island of Rhodes. In the 1st century before the Common Era, Rhodes was a renowned center for both astronomy and advanced engineering, a place where abstract theory met practical craftsmanship. The device's precise, eclipse predictions align perfectly with observational data that would have been accessible from Rhodes, making it a perfect fit. Yet another tantalizing possibility stretches back even further, to the legendary genius of Archimedes in. The Roman writer Cicero, decades after the shipwreck, described a glorious bronze planetarium brought to Rome that modeled the motions of the sun, moon, and planets. A device said to have been crafted by Archimedes himself. Could the mechanism be a later, refined descendant of that lost invention, perhaps built by followers carrying on his mechanical tradition? Whoever the maker was, they were not a solitary genius working in isolation. This device is the product of a vibrant, sophisticated, and now largely lost tradition of Hellenistic mechanical engineering. It represents a lineage of thinkers who saw no divide between the purity of geometry and the grit of the workshop, who believed the deepest truths of the universe could be articulated not only in equations, but in the precise meshing of bronze teeth. This anonymous creator was a bridge between worlds, transforming observed cycles into tangible motion, and in doing so, left behind a legacy of ingenuity we are only just beginning to fully appreciate. This mechanical marvel was born not on a drawing board, but on a craftsman's bench. The physical reality of the mechanism is a testament to a forgotten industrial art. Its bones were made from sheets of low-tin bronze, a specific alloy chosen for its ideal balance of strength and malleability. These sheets were likely hammered to a uniform thickness, then carefully cut into the rough shapes of plates and gear blanks. For the gears themselves, the makers almost certainly employed the lost wax method, a sophisticated technique still used by sculptors and jewelers today. They would have first carved a perfect toothed gear model from beeswax, then encased it in a clay mold. When heated, the wax would melt and drain away, leaving a hollow cavity in the exact shape of the gear. Molten bronze was then poured into that cavity, and once cooled, the clay was broken away to reveal a rough bronze casting. But the casting was only the beginning. Each gear then entered a phase of meticulous hand finishing. Using small metal files, a skilled artisan would have painstakingly cleaned up the casting seams and refined each individual tooth, ensuring they were smooth, evenly spaced, and cut at that precise 60-degree angle to mesh perfectly with its neighbors. This was microengineering, performed with the naked eye and a steady hand. The front and back plates, the faces of the device, received a different kind of artistry. Using a sharp, chisel-like tool called a burin, a scribe engraved the complex scales, the spiral grooves for the dials, and those thousands of tiny Greek letters. One slip of the hand here could ruin months of work. Finally, this entire bronze brain was housed in a protective wooden case, likely with small doors that opened to reveal the dials, turning the machine into a self-contained, portable wonder. This convergence of skills is staggering. It required the metallurgist who understood alloys, the foundry worker who mastered the lost wax process, the precision machinist with his files, and the master scribe with his burin. Such a symphony of specialized artisanship marks this as a luxury object of the highest order. The resources, time, and coordinated expertise needed to produce it were immense. This was not a tool for the marketplace. It was a commissioned masterpiece, built for a patron of extraordinary wealth and intellectual passion. Someone looked at the chaos of the stars and commissioned a machine to make it orderly, investing a fortune to hold a model of the cosmos in a wooden box. This single object, a masterpiece of gears and precision, forces a monumental question upon us. How could such a device even exist in the ancient world? To answer that, we must step back from the mechanism itself and into the vibrant, intellectually explosive era that gave it life. The mechanism was not a miraculous fluke. It was a brilliant blossom on a very specific branch of the human family tree. It was a product of the Hellenistic period, the 3 centuries following the conquests of Alexander the Great. Alexander's empire shattered the old world, but in its place, it created something new, a vast, interconnected network of Greek-speaking cities stretching from Egypt to the borders of India. This was a world in motion, where ideas, trade goods, and people flowed along new routes. And in this fertile soil, Greek learning did not just survive, it underwent a radical transformation. It became bigger, bolder, and intensely practical. The quiet philosophical schools of classical Athens gave way to grand, state-funded research institutions in new cosmopolitan capitals. The most famous of these was the Great Library of Alexandria in Egypt, but it was not alone. On the island of Rhodes, where our mechanism may have been built, and in the kingdom of in modern Turkey, similar centers of scholarship thrived. These were not just repositories of scrolls, they were engines of innovation. Here, for the first time on such a scale, abstract thinkers and hands-on craftsmen began to collaborate. Mathematicians like Euclid and Apollonius provided the geometry. Astronomers like Hipparchus, who likely worked on Rhodes, compiled centuries of celestial observations, noting the precise irregularities in the moon's orbit. And a new kind of professional emerged, the engineer. These were the practical geniuses who took that pure theory and gave it physical form. We know from historical accounts that this era was filled with mechanical wonders that sound almost like science fiction. There were elaborate water clocks that told time with singing birds and moving figures. There were automated puppet theaters powered by complex systems of ropes, weights, and gears that could enact entire mythological plays. Hero of Alexandria described devices that opened temple doors automatically with fire and steam, and even a primitive vending machine that dispensed holy water. This was a culture fascinated by automata, self-moving machines that mimicked life and natural law. In this context, the mechanism starts to make sense. It is not an alien artifact. It is the pinnacle of a recognizable technological trajectory. It represents the ultimate application of Hellenistic engineering principles, not to mimic life for entertainment, but to mimic the cosmos for understanding. It stands as the most sophisticated surviving example of what was clearly a rich tradition of precision. And that word, surviving, is the key to a haunting realization. If this one device, lost by chance at the bottom of the sea, represents the peak of what we found, what else was built that did not survive? The burning of libraries, the collapse of empires, the simple decay of wood and bronze over centuries, all of it has erased the full picture. The mechanism is a solitary, staggering clue that the ancient world's technological capabilities were far more advanced than our history books, filled with pottery shards and stone ruins, have led us to believe. It challenges the comforting, linear narrative of human progress, the idea that we've been on a steady, upward climb from primitive to advanced. Instead, it suggests a different story, one of brilliant peaks and profound valleys, where a high-tech ancient world existed, flourished, and then its knowledge faded, leaving later generations to slowly, painfully rediscover what had once been known. This one corroded clockwork forces us to reconsider not just a device, but the entire arc of scientific history. The mechanism's existence raises a chilling possibility that the peak of ancient technology might have been higher than we dared to believe. But this leads to the most haunting question of all. If this device was so brilliant, why does its technological lineage seem to vanish from history for over 1,000 years? Why did gears this precise not appear again until the great astronomical clocks of medieval Europe? The answer is not a single event, but a slow unraveling of the very world that made the mechanism possible. First, consider the ecosystem that built it. This was not a product of a cottage industry, but of a sophisticated patronage system. It required wealthy, intellectually curious sponsors, like a king or a temple, who could fund years of work by teams of specialized artisans. As the political and economic stability of the Hellenistic world fractured, this elite patronage for complex philosophical instruments likely dried up. The Roman Empire that absorbed these territories had a different engineering genius, one focused on monumental and practical achievements, aqueducts, roads, and military machinery. They admired Greek science, but their drive was often toward utility and scale, not toward building intricate cosmic models for pure understanding. This shift in cultural priorities meant the knowledge of how to make such devices was no longer in high demand. Then came the slow, silent loss of the craftsmen themselves. The skills needed to cast, finish, and assemble the mechanism's gears were not written down in manuals. They were passed from master to apprentice through years of hands-on training. As projects became rarer, these specialists would have found other work, and their irreplaceable, tactile knowledge, the feel of the file on the bronze, the intuition for gear tolerances, simply faded from memory with each passing generation. This was a fragility we rarely consider, technology as a living tradition, vulnerable to the simple cessation of practice. Finally, the great repositories of theoretical knowledge, the libraries like the one in Alexandria, suffered repeated damage and destruction over centuries through conflict and accident. While key astronomical concepts from thinkers like Hipparchus survived in texts, the detailed engineering plans, the workshop diagrams that translated theory into gear trains, were almost certainly lost. The knowledge became fragmented, a set of brilliant ideas separated from the practical craft needed to give them physical form. The mechanism thus transforms from a mere artifact into a profound symbol. It stands as a stark reminder that technological advancement is not an inevitable upward climb. Progress is not a law of nature, it is a cultural project. It can be interrupted, forgotten, or abandoned when the delicate web of funding, skilled labor, and intellectual curiosity that sustains it comes apart. This single device whispers a lesson with urgent implications for our own time, that our most advanced knowledge is always more fragile than it appears, a flickering light in the long human story. One that requires constant care to keep from being swallowed, once again, by the silent depths of time. The silent genius of the original designer now speaks through the hands of modern builders. For decades, the mechanism existed as a collection of corroded fragments and X-ray shadows, a ghost of a machine. To truly understand it, researchers realized they had to bring it back to life, not just in theory, but in tangible, turning metal. This has led to a remarkable chapter in the story, where scientists, engineers, and passionate hobbyists have become time-traveling collaborators, attempting to reconstruct the device in both digital space and the physical workshop. Each reconstruction is far more than a simple copy. It is a working hypothesis, a bold statement that says, "We think this is how the ancient mind solved this puzzle." The process begins with the same tomography data, the same ghostly images of internal gears. But then comes the leap of interpretation. translating those static images into dynamic, functional gear trains that could actually produce the celestial motions described by the inscriptions. One of the most influential physical reconstructions was built by Michael Wright, a former curator at London Science Museum. Working over many years, he meticulously crafted a model that brought all the known functions together in a single, breathtaking assembly. His model demonstrated, with the satisfying click of bronze on bronze, that the proposed gear arrangements for the Sun, Moon, and planetary displays were not just theoretical, they were mechanically sound. Another team from the Aristotle University created their own detailed replica, testing different configurations for the elusive planetary gears. Meanwhile, computer models built by researchers like John Gleave allowed for infinite digital tinkering, simulating thousands of gear ratios and layouts to find those that matched the ancient evidence. Watching a modern reconstruction in operation is a profound experience. As a person turns the input crank, a symphony of motion begins. Pointers sweep across dials, the moon phase ball rotates, and eclipse warnings align with their predicted months. This is not a simulation on a screen, it is physics in action, the same laws of leverage and rotation the original engineer used. Each successful turn of the crank is a silent answer to a 2,000-year-old question, a confirmation that the design was correct. These models reveal the ingenious shortcuts and elegant solutions of the ancient maker. They show how a clever placement of a pin in a slot could create a wobble, or how a specific combination of gear sizes could subtract one motion from another. The modern builder, facing the same mechanical challenges, often arrives at the same solution as the ancient one, creating a direct, wordless conversation across the. It is a conversation of respect between one engineer who calculated with abacus and geometry, and another who calculates with computer models and precision lathes. Through these reconstructions, the mechanism ceases to be a broken artifact and becomes a teacher. It shows us that the ancient world's intelligence was not just philosophical, it was profoundly practical, capable of transforming complex astronomy into a beautiful, reliable machine. Every whirring model on a modern bench is a testament to that lost genius, and a bridge of understanding built from bronze and sheer curiosity. This solitary, corroded device does more than rewrite a chapter of history. It forces us to tear out entire pages and start again. For centuries, the accepted narrative of technological progress was a steady, linear climb. We believed the great leaps in mechanical complexity, the gears that would later drive the clocks of medieval cathedrals and the calculating machines of the Renaissance, were inventions of those later eras. The mechanism shatters that comforting timeline. It provides undeniable physical proof that the core principles of complex precision gearing were not invented in the Middle Ages. They were fully mastered in the workshops of ancient Greece. Over 1,000 years earlier, this isn't just an interesting footnote, it's a fundamental revision of the history of science itself. Consider the differential gear, that brilliant assembly that allowed the mechanism to model the moon's variable speed. Before its discovery in this artifact, historians of technology traced its invention to the 16th century, crediting it to master clockmakers or possibly even Leonardo da Vinci. Finding a working differential in a device from the 1st century before the Common Era is a chronological earthquake. It pushes the invention of this transformative concept back by 1,500 years. Imagine if we discovered a modern smartphone in a Victorian desk drawer. It forces a complete reevaluation of what we thought was possible in that era. The mechanism is that smartphone, a data point that demands we redraw the entire graph of human ingenuity. but its impact is even deeper than moving dates on a timeline. For too long, we have viewed the ancient Greek intellectual achievement through a narrow lens. We celebrated their philosophers for pondering the cosmos, their mathematicians for defining geometry, their astronomers for mapping the stars. Yet we often place these abstract thinkers in a separate category from the artisans and metalworkers, seeing theory and practice as distinct worlds. The mechanism obliterates that false division. Here, in one exquisite object, we see the seamless fusion of both. Hipparchus's astronomical cycles are not just written on papyrus, they are physically encoded in the ratios of bronze teeth. The abstract concept of lunar anomaly is not just a theory, it is made into a tangible, wobbling motion by a pin sliding in a slot. This device is the ultimate proof that the Greeks possessed not just theoretical knowledge, but the mechanical genius to incarnate that knowledge, to build a machine that could think. It reshapes our view of the ancient world from a civilization of pure philosophy and grand architecture into one of integrated science and engineering, where the quest to understand the universe was pursued with both the mind and the hands. This forces a humbling realization that our modern distinction between the scientist and the engineer is a recent invention. In the world that built this mechanism, they were the same person, or at least, they spoke the same language of problem and solution. The loss of this integrated tradition, as we've seen, was a catastrophe for knowledge. But its rediscovery through this one salvaged machine is a gift. It expands our sense of human potential, reminding us that brilliance is not the property of any single era, but a spark that can flare with astonishing intensity, only to be forgotten, waiting patiently in the darkness for us to find it again. The mechanism's true power lies not in its bronze, but in the worldview it makes tangible. This was far more than a sophisticated calendar or an eclipse predictor. It was a physical embodiment of a revolutionary Greek idea, the concept of the cosmos. For the Greeks, the cosmos was not a chaotic void. It was an ordered, harmonious, and beautiful system, a universe governed by principles that could be understood through reason and expressed through mathematics. The very word cosmos means order, arrangement, and even adornment, implying a universe of intrinsic beauty and structure. By turning the mechanism's handle and watching its pointers sweep across the dials, a user wasn't just checking a date, they were performing a profound philosophical act. They were witnessing, with their own eyes and hands, the predictable, mechanical regularity of the heavens. They could literally grasp the order of the universe. This transformed abstract philosophy into a direct sensory experience. Imagine the awe of a student or a curious observer, watching as a simple crank motion made the moon's phases cycle and eclipse warnings align, all according to a hidden internal logic they could hear in the gentle whir of gears. It served as the ultimate teaching tool, a dynamic demonstration that the stars were not random points of light, but part of a comprehensible grand design. In this way, the mechanism bridged the gap between the elite scholars who devised the theories and a wider audience who could see those theories in action. But its significance may have reached even deeper into the realm of the sacred. In the ancient world, the celestial sphere was intimately connected to the divine. The sun, moon, and planets were often seen as manifestations or instruments of the gods. A device that could so accurately predict their motions didn't challenge that belief. Instead, it could beautifully reinforce it. By revealing the intricate, predictable clockwork behind the sky's drama, the mechanism showcased what might be seen as the divine intelligence of the universe's architect. It presented a universe not of capricious magic, but of sublime, rational order, a creation so perfect it could be modeled in a box. This blends what we now separate as science and spirituality into a single, harmonious artifact. The mechanism didn't just calculate, it inspired reverence for the mathematical elegance of creation. It was a testament to the human mind's ability to perceive that elegance and, in an act of profound homage, recreate a small piece of it here on Earth. In its silent turning, it whispers a powerful message from the past, that to understand the universe is not to diminish its wonder, but to participate in its deepest mystery. This lonely peak of achievement forces us to measure the chasm of time that followed it. To grasp the true scale of the mechanism's precocity, we must leap forward, past the fall of Rome, through the so-called Dark Ages, and into the illuminated cathedrals of medieval Europe. It is there, in the 14th century, that we find the next technological objects that can even begin to stand in comparison, the great astronomical clocks. Consider the legendary clock built in Padua, Italy, starting in 1348. It took him 16 years to construct his masterpiece, a seven-sided tower of brass and iron that displayed the motions of the sun, moon, and the 5 known planets. It was a wonder of its age, a testament to the reborn mechanical ingenuity of the medieval mind. Yet, when we place it beside the mechanism, a profound gap emerges. This clock was monumental, a piece of furniture-sized engineering. The device was compact, portable, a model of miniaturization. More critically, its planetary models, while complex, relied on different mechanical principles. He did not use a differential gear. That brilliant piece of engineering, so central to the ancient Greek device's modeling of the moon's variable speed, appears to have vanished completely from the technological record, only to be reinvented independently more than 1,000 years later. The medieval clockmakers were starting over, climbing a mountain whose peak had already been reached and then shrouded in mist. This comparison is not meant to diminish the achievements of later eras, but to highlight the extraordinary, isolated nature of the achievement. It represents a convergence of knowledge, craftsmanship, and intellectual ambition that simply did not exist for well over a millennium. For context, imagine if we discovered a working steam engine in the ruins of ancient Egypt. The entire timeline of the Industrial Revolution would be thrown into question. The mechanism has that same disruptive power for the history of technology. It forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth, that progress is not a relentless upward march. It is a story of brilliant flashes in the dark, of knowledge gained, lost, and painfully regained. The 14 centuries that separate this Greek device from its clock represent more than just years. They represent a vast silence in the archaeological record for this specific, high form of mechanical science. This silence is deafening. It suggests 2 haunting possibilities. Either this mechanism was a singular miracle, a one-off masterpiece that emerged from a perfect storm of genius and resources, never to be replicated, or more likely, it was not alone. It may have been the finest surviving example of a whole tradition of such devices, all of which succumbed to the ravages of time, metal being melted down for coins or weapons, wood decaying, knowledge fading from living memory. Its survival, by the sheer luck of a shipwreck, gives us a single, breathtaking data point in what was likely a much richer graph of ancient innovation. That is its ultimate power. It transforms our understanding of history from a solid timeline into a landscape of possibilities, where peaks of genius can rise in unexpected eras, only to be swallowed by the valleys of time, waiting for the light of discovery to find them again. Decades of meticulous research have peeled back layers of the past, yet the mechanism guards its deepest secrets with a stubborn silence. We have mapped its gears and translated its inscriptions, but fundamental questions about its original form and full purpose remain tantalizingly unresolved. Look at the front plate, the main face of the device. Today, we see a complex arrangement of concentric rings and empty spaces. But when it was new, this dial was alive with motion. How many pointers swept across these scales? We know of hands for the sun and the moon, but what of the planets? The inscriptions name them, and the empty spaces suggest elaborate, missing gear assemblies dedicated to Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Reconstructing these lost planetary trains is the holy grail for modern researchers. Each proposed gear layout is a high-stakes puzzle, a test of whether our modern engineering logic can match the elegant solutions of an ancient mind. Did the maker use a complex series of epicyclic gears, similar to the moon's but even more elaborate, to make those pointers perform their looping retrograde dances? Or was there a different, even more ingenious principle at work that we have yet to rediscover? The ghost of that complete cosmic display haunts every reconstruction. Then there is the casing itself. The surviving fragments are just the bronze brain. The inscriptions include words like sphere and cosmos. This has led some scholars to wonder, was the original device housed in something more spectacular than a simple wooden box? Could it have been enclosed in a celestial globe, a bronze sphere etched with constellations, through which the pointers emerged to mark the positions of the wandering stars? Such a housing would have transformed the machine from a calculator into a true miniature universe, a handheld orrery of breathtaking beauty. This raises the haunting possibility that the most stunning part of the device, its physical representation of the heavens, is the part we have lost completely. Beyond its physical form lies the enduring mystery of its use. Who turned the crank, and for what immediate need? Was it a temple treasure, used by priests to schedule sacred festivals and interpret celestial omens with mechanical certainty? Could it have been a tool for astrological forecasting, generating personalized charts based on precise planetary positions? Some have even proposed a navigational purpose, though the open sea seems an unlikely place for such a delicate instrument. Perhaps it was all of these, a multi-purpose masterpiece for a wealthy patron or a scholarly school, a device that blended science, religion, and philosophy into a single, awe-inspiring demonstration. This ambiguity is part of its power. It reflects a world where these domains were not yet separate. The most profound, unanswered question, however, may be the simplest. Was it alone? The sheer sophistication of the mechanism makes it statistically unlikely to be a one-off miracle. It feels like a peak, not an isolated hill. Logic suggests there must have been prototypes, simpler models, and perhaps even more advanced versions that have been lost to time, melted down for their bronze, or simply crumbled to dust. Their absence speaks to the terrifying fragility of high knowledge. These persistent gaps in our understanding are not failures of research, they are the very engine of it. They ensure the mechanism is not a closed book, but an open invitation. Every new imaging technology, every fresh perspective from a historian or engineer, offers a chance to solve another piece of this ancient puzzle. It remains a conversation across, a dialogue where we ask the questions, and a silent bundle of gears and text, resting in a museum case, waits for us to listen closely enough to hear its reply. The near is not a static grave, but an active archaeological frontier. While the mechanism remains the wreck's most famous occupant, the ongoing exploration of the site reveals a much richer story, one cargo hold at a time. Modern expeditions, equipped with advances that allow divers to work safely at extreme depths for longer periods, are meticulously combing through the sediment that has preserved this time capsule for two. Their findings paint a vivid picture of the ship's final voyage and its precious, diverse cargo. Alongside the expected amphorae, used for transporting wine and oil, divers have recovered exquisite glassware, gold jewelry, and a stunning bronze spear that likely once belonged to a larger statue of a warrior or a god. Each of these objects is a data point, helping to map the trade routes, artistic tastes, and economic ambitions of the era. Even the discovery of human remains, treated with the utmost respect by researchers, offers a silent, poignant connection to the individuals caught in that ancient maritime tragedy. These personal traces remind us that this was not just a shipment of goods, but a vessel carrying people, each with their own story now lost to the sea. Every artifact recovered from the muddy bottom adds crucial context to the mechanism's own mysterious journey. The nature of the other cargo, a wealth of luxury items and art, suggests this was a high-value commercial shipment or perhaps a state-sponsored transfer of treasure to Rome. This setting deepens the mystery of the mechanism's purpose on board. Was it simply another piece of valuable loot, a trophy of Greek intellectual capital being shipped to a wealthy Roman collector? Or does its presence hint at something more personal? Could it have been the prized possession of a scholar or an ambassador traveling with the cargo, a tool for both study and demonstration? Some researchers have even proposed it was a diplomatic gift, intended to awe Roman patrons with the sophistication of Hellenistic science. The answer to why it was on that ship may forever elude us, but each new find from the wreck helps us triangulate the possibilities, narrowing the gap between a lone, miraculous object and the living world that created and transported it. This ongoing work holds a tantalizing promise that the final chapter of the discovery is far from written. Archaeologists now work with a precise map of the seabed, and every scoop of sediment is carefully sifted. The hope, however faint, persists that more fragments of the mechanism itself may still lie buried, perhaps parts that could finally confirm the design of its elusive planetary displays. Even more revolutionary is the possibility that the wreck may contain parts of other devices. If the mechanism was cargo, could there have been more than one? If it was a scholar's tool, might there have been other instruments? The idea that this ship could yield evidence of a second ancient computer is a thrilling prospect for historians. It would transform the mechanism from a breathtaking anomaly into a representative of a broader technological reality. Every season of diving is an act of faith in that potential, a belief that the still guards secrets that can reshape our understanding of the ancient mind. The story of the mechanism, therefore, is not confined to a museum case in Athens. It is an open loop, extending down through 180 feet of clear blue water to a scattered field of artifacts on the sand. The next revelation may not come from a new scan of the old fragments, but from the gentle touch of a diver's hand, uncovering another piece of bronze that has been waiting in the dark for 2,000 years to be found. The same technology that defines our modern world is now the key to understanding this ancient one. In a beautiful twist of fate, the world's oldest known computer is being decoded with the help of its most advanced descendants. The high-resolution, computed tomography scans that first revealed its inner gears are just the beginning. Today, researchers use sophisticated three-dimensional modeling software to digitally reassemble the fragments, testing gear interactions with a click rather than casting costly bronze. They can simulate wear, calculate tolerances, and run the mechanism forward through centuries of celestial cycles in seconds, experiments that would be impossible on the fragile original. This digital resurrection extends far beyond the laboratory. Interactive websites and detailed apps now place a working model of the mechanism on the screens of students and enthusiasts worldwide. With a swipe of a finger, anyone can turn the virtual crank, watch the pointers sweep across the dials, and witness the eclipse predictions align. This transformation is profound. The device is no longer locked behind museum glass, accessible only to a handful of specialists. It has become a global classroom, a shared resource that demystifies 2,000-year-old science and makes its elegant logic instantly graspable. The story of its decoding is itself a powerful narrative about our own era. It showcases how modern innovation, from medical imaging to the internet, can act as a master key for the past. We are using networks of silicon and light to reassemble a network of bronze and ambition, creating a perfect synergy across the ages. The ancient engineer solved problems with geometry and craftsmanship. We solve the problem of understanding him with algorithms and simulations. This digital legacy ensures the mechanism is no longer a static relic, but a living idea, constantly rediscovered and reanimated with every new generation of technology. It stands as a timeless reminder that the drive to calculate, to model, and to understand the universe is a thread that connects the most intricate gear of the first century to the most powerful processor of the 21st. Perhaps the greatest lesson this ancient device offers is not about the past, but about how we teach the future. The mechanism has escaped the confines of the museum case to become something far more powerful, a master key for unlocking young minds. In classrooms and workshops around the world, this 2,000-year-old computer is being reborn as one of the most compelling teaching tools we have for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It provides a tangible, thrilling answer to the student's eternal question, why do I need to learn this? Here, the abstract becomes physical. The mathematical concept of a gear ratio is no longer just a formula on a whiteboard. It is the direct cause of a pointer moving across a dial to predict an eclipse. Students can hold a three-dimensional printed model, turn a crank, and witness the transfer of motion from one gear to another, feeling the principles of mechanical advantage and rotational speed in their hands. They aren't just memorizing facts, they are reverse engineering a solution, engaging in the very same process of problem-solving and deduction that the original makers used. This hands-on exploration turns the scientific method into a personal adventure of discovery, where every turn of a gear is a testable hypothesis about how the ancient world understood its universe. It makes notoriously challenging concepts suddenly accessible and vivid. Take the idea of epicycles, the complex geometric model the Greeks used to explain the puzzling retrograde motion of the planets. In a textbook, this can seem like a dry, convoluted theory. But when a student builds or manipulates a physical model that uses a pin sliding in a slot to create a gentle, looping wobble, that abstract theory clicks into place. They see that the ancient astronomers weren't wrong. They were brilliantly observational, using the best tools and models they had to make sense of the data before them. The mechanism becomes a bridge across time, connecting the geometric proofs of Euclid with the practical engineering in the workshop. It demonstrates that mathematics wasn't an isolated academic exercise. It was the essential language for building a model of reality. By calculating the number of teeth on each gear to match an astronomical cycle, students directly apply lessons in fractions, least common multiples, and periodic functions to a problem with a stunning visual outcome. They learn that math is the hidden architecture of the world, a truth the Greeks knew intimately. Most importantly, this device fundamentally reshapes our historical perspective. For generations, the narrative presented to students often framed ancient technology as a precursor to real science, a collection of simple levers, pulleys, and philosophical guesses. The mechanism shatters that simplistic timeline. It forces a dramatic revision, showing that a civilization too ago achieved a level of integrated engineering and scientific understanding that rivals the complexity of early modern clocks. This realization is profoundly empowering. It challenges the often unspoken assumption of linear, inevitable progress and replaces it with a more nuanced and exciting story of human ingenuity flaring brightly in different eras. Students discover that the drive to innovate, to calculate, and to model the cosmos is a deep part of our shared human heritage. They are not merely learning about old gears, they are connecting with the intellectual curiosity of people who lived centuries before them, people who looked at the same stars and asked the same fundamental questions. This connection fosters a powerful sense of continuity, showing that today's cutting-edge robotics, coding, and space exploration are part of a conversation that began long ago. The mechanism inspires not just awe for the past, but a sense of responsibility for the future, a reminder that the knowledge we build today must be cherished and passed on, lest it too fade into silence. Waiting for a future generation to rediscover it once more, this silent from the sea compels a complete rethinking of history itself. For so long, we have told ourselves a comforting story of human progress, a steady, upward march from the primitive to the advanced, from simple stone tools to silicon chips. We imagine a timeline where each generation stands on the shoulders of the last, adding its own brick to an ever-growing tower of knowledge. The mechanism shatters that simple narrative. It does not fit on that smooth, upward curve. Here is a device of staggering sophistication, and then, for over 1,000 years, nothing like it appears in the archaeological record. Its existence forces us to replace the line with a different shape, a jagged landscape of towering peaks and deep, silent valleys. History, it seems, is not a constant climb, but a story of brilliant flashes, where knowledge becomes concentrated in a specific time and place, only to be scattered, forgotten, or buried by the tides of change. This model of history is not about decline, but about fragility. It asks us to consider a haunting possibility, that the peak of ancient technological capability might have been higher than the surviving ruins suggest. We have built our understanding of antiquity on what endured, on stone temples and pottery shards, materials meant to last. But high technology in the ancient world was likely built from bronze, wood, and papyrus, materials far more vulnerable to fire, plunder, decay, or simple recycling. A bronze gear is a treasure one day and raw material for coins or weapons the next. So we must confront a profound question. If this one device survived by the sheer chance of a shipwreck, what else was lost? What other concepts, what other machines that modeled the world or eased human labor have vanished without a trace, leaving no shadow in our history books? This thought humbles our modern perspective. We live in an age of breathtaking acceleration, where a smartphone in your pocket holds more computational power than the guidance systems that first took humanity to the moon. It is easy to feel a sense of technological arrogance, to believe our era uniquely possesses the keys to understanding. The mechanism is a quiet, powerful corrective to that arrogance. It is a monument to a different kind of brilliance, one achieved without electricity, without mass production, without digital networks, yet no less profound in its ambition and execution. It reminds us that genius is not the sole property of any single era. It is a recurring spark in the human mind. The Greeks who built this were not primitive precursors to real science. They were peers in curiosity, tackling the same fundamental mysteries of the cosmos with the tools they had masterfully crafted. This object, therefore, carries a dual legacy. It is a triumphant celebration of human curiosity, our innate drive to look at the stars and build a machine to comprehend their dance. But it is also a solemn warning etched in bronze, a lesson about the fragility of complex knowledge. The ecosystem that produced this mechanism, a blend of elite patronage, specialized craftsmanship, and theoretical scholarship, proved to be fragile. When that delicate web unraveled, the knowledge of how to make such things did not simply go dormant, it evaporated from living memory. In our own information age, where vast archives exist in the digital cloud, this warning resonates with new urgency. We assume our knowledge is permanent, backed up on servers around the globe. But the mechanism whispers that preservation is not a passive act, it is a cultural commitment. It requires maintaining the living chains of understanding, the teachers and the students, the theorists and the makers, who can interpret the blueprints and breathe life back into the ideas. The mechanism is more than an ancient computer, it is a mirror. It reflects not only the sophisticated world that built it, but our own assumptions about progress, permanence, and the precious, flickering light of understanding we strive to pass through the long night of time. The story of this ancient device has not remained confined to academic journals. Its mystery has resonated far beyond the museum, sparking the creative imagination of storytellers and filmmakers around the world. The mechanism has become a recurring character in novels, a centerpiece in acclaimed documentaries, and a compelling plot device in television series. In these fictional and factual narratives, it often symbolizes a profound idea, that of a lost golden age of ancient science, a peak of technological achievement that history somehow forgot. It is portrayed as a ghost from a more enlightened past, a direct challenge to our assumptions about the linear march of progress. This popularization, while sometimes taking artistic license with the facts, has played a crucial and undeniable role. It has transformed the mechanism from an obscure archaeological find into a cultural touchstone, bringing its tantalizing puzzle to a global audience of millions who might never pick up a scientific paper. A viewer watching a drama about ancient astronomers or a documentary exploring historical mysteries encounters this intricate device and is immediately hooked by its implication. How could something so complex be so old? What does its existence mean for our understanding of human history? This spark of curiosity is invaluable. It drives people to learn more, to seek out the real research, and to engage with the past in a personal way. This process demonstrates a beautiful synergy between academic rigor and popular storytelling. The scientists provide the breathtaking truth, and the artists provide the compelling narrative frame that makes that truth resonate emotionally. Together, they build a bridge. This bridge connects the meticulous work of deciphering millimeter-high text in a lab with the wide-eyed wonder of someone sitting on their couch, captivated by a story of ancient genius. The mechanism, in this sense, performs a second function beyond its original purpose. It is no longer just a calculator of celestial cycles, it has become an engine of cultural curiosity. It invites everyone to participate in the mystery, to question the textbook timelines, and to feel a sense of shared awe at the capabilities of our ancestors. This widespread fascination ensures the device's legacy is not just preserved in glass, but kept alive in the ongoing conversation of our culture, continually inspiring new questions about the depth of our shared past and the fragile threads of knowledge that connect us across the centuries. Yet this window into the past is itself a fragile artifact, requiring a constant vigil against time. The conserved fragments rest in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, not as inert displays, but as objects in a delicate, ongoing conversation with the present. The bronze is no longer metal in the traditional sense. It has a profound transformation called mineralization. Over 2N, the original copper and tin were slowly replaced by minerals from the sea, creating a stone-like shell that preserved the shape of the gears but left them incredibly brittle. To the touch, these pieces would be as fragile as a dried leaf. Inside this mineralized crust, subtle chemical reactions continue, a slow dance of decay that never truly stops. This presents a monumental conservation challenge, one that balances reverence for the physical object with the relentless need for new knowledge. The solution is a marriage of extreme caution and advanced technology. The fragments are housed in specially designed, climate-controlled cases that maintain a constant temperature and humidity, creating a microenvironment that slows further deterioration. Conservators use non-invasive techniques like precision laser scanning and periodic X-ray imaging to monitor the internal state of the fragments without ever touching them. Watching for microscopic shifts or new cracks, the goal is not to restore the mechanism to a shiny, new-looking state, which would destroy its historical integrity, but to stabilize it, to press pause on its decay. This is a race against a silent clock, where the finish line is not a single date, but the open horizon of future generations. The true challenge is philosophical as much as technical. How do you preserve an object for a future you cannot imagine, for questions that have not yet been asked, using technologies that have not yet been invented? The curators and scientists overseeing this work are stewards in the deepest sense. They are not merely guarding a relic, they are protecting a conduit. Their meticulous care ensures that a researcher 50 or 100 years from now, armed with tools we cannot yet conceive, can peer into these same fragments and see something new. Perhaps reading inscriptions still hidden or understanding a gear interaction we have missed. This ongoing stewardship is a profound responsibility to both the past and the future. It acknowledges that the mechanism is not a puzzle we have solved, but a conversation we have joined, and we must keep the line open for voices yet to come. The decoding of this ancient machine is a story of modern minds meeting across traditional boundaries. It is a narrative that could only be told through a chorus of different voices, a collaboration that shattered the walls between academic disciplines. From the very beginning, understanding the mechanism demanded more than any single expert could offer. It required a team where an archaeologist's knowledge of ancient context sat beside a mechanical engineer's understanding of gear trains, where a physicist's grasp of tomography technology worked in tandem with a philologist's skill in deciphering faded Greek script. This was not a linear process where one specialist handed a finished piece to the next. It was a continuous, messy, and brilliantly productive conversation. An astronomer would propose a gear ratio to model a specific celestial cycle, and an engineer would immediately test its physical feasibility, asking if bronze gears of that size could actually mesh and turn without binding. A historian would find a reference in a classical text, and a materials scientist would analyze the corrosion on the fragment to see if the evidence matched the literary clue. This breaking down of silos was not just helpful, it was absolutely essential. The mechanism itself was an interdisciplinary object, blending science, engineering, and culture into one artifact. To understand it, our methods had to mirror that same integrated spirit. Perhaps the most inspiring part of this story is the vital role played by passionate individuals outside formal institutions. Talented amateurs and independent researchers, whose fresh eyes and unique skills provided breakthroughs that eluded the established experts. A compelling example is the contribution of a freelance filmmaker named Tony. Frustrated by the limitations of existing images, he and his colleagues developed a novel photographic technique using a form of polynomial texture mapping. This method involved taking dozens of high-resolution photographs of the fragments under raking light from every possible angle. When combined with sophisticated software, these images allowed researchers to see surface details, inscriptions, and gear teeth with a clarity that was previously impossible, almost as if they were physically tracing their fingers over the bronze. This was not data gathered in a university lab with a massive grant. It was the innovation of someone approaching the problem with a filmmaker's eye for light and texture. His work provided a crucial new dataset that helped teams around the world refine their models. Similarly, the intricate physical reconstructions built by dedicated model makers, like the late Michael Wright, were acts of profound interrogation. By attempting to build the device with their own hands, these enthusiasts tested theories in the most tangible way possible, feeling where gears jammed and discovering elegant solutions that pure theory might have missed. The case of the mechanism offers a powerful lesson that extends far beyond ancient Greece. It shows us that solving the deepest mysteries of our past, or confronting the most complex problems of our present, rarely yields to a single, narrow field of expertise. True understanding often emerges at the intersections, in the shared space where different ways of thinking collide and collaborate. It argues for a more open, connected approach to knowledge, one that values the curious outsider as much as the tenured professor, and sees a mechanical workshop, a photographic studio, and a university library as equally valid arenas for discovery. This collaborative spirit, this fusion of diverse perspectives, is the true modern legacy of those ancient gears. It is how we listen to whispers from the past, and perhaps how we will build a more intelligible future. When an object seems to defy our understanding of history, it can become a magnet for extraordinary stories. The sheer sophistication of the mechanism, so far ahead of its time, has inevitably sparked speculative theories that reach beyond conventional archaeology. Some voices suggest its intricate gears are evidence of ancient contact with extraterrestrial beings, a gift from to primitive humanity. Others propose it is a surviving relic from a legendary lost civilization like Atlantis, a fragment of a forgotten high technology that sank beneath the waves. These narratives are undeniably captivating, offering a sense of cosmic wonder or romantic tragedy. They speak to a deep human desire to explain the unexplainable with grand, mythic answers. Yet, without exception, scholars and researchers who have dedicated their lives to studying the fragments resoundingly reject these ideas. The evidence for the mechanism's origin is not ambiguous. It is overwhelming and thoroughly, beautifully human. Every millimeter of it tells a Greek story. Its thousands of microscopic characters are written in the Greek language, using the Greek alphabet. The astronomical cycles it calculates, like the Metonic and Saros cycles, were documented by Greek astronomers like Hipparchus. The months and the Panhellenic games it tracks are cornerstones of Greek society. Its very design philosophy, the drive to model a rational cosmos with geometry and mechanics, is a pinnacle of Greek intellectual thought. To attribute this device to aliens or Atlanteans is to bypass the real, documented genius of the culture that created it. It is a dismissal, however unintentional, of human capability. So why do these alternative theories persist with such tenacity? They often emerge to fill the uncomfortable gaps in our historical knowledge. The mechanism is a staggering outlier, and for a long time, we had no framework to explain how it could exist. When faced with such a gap, the human imagination can rush in with a compelling myth, a shortcut that provides an answer, however fantastical. It is simpler to imagine a single, miraculous intervention from outside than to reconstruct the complex, lost ecosystem of scholarship and craftsmanship that actually produced it. The true story, however, is far more remarkable and ultimately more inspiring than any fiction. It tells us that the people of the ancient world were not passive recipients of knowledge, but active, brilliant explorers of their universe. They observed, calculated, theorized, and engineered with a skill that still leaves us in awe. They did not need outside help to build a model of the cosmos. They used their own minds and hands. This realization carries a powerful message about our own potential. If humans 2,000 years ago could achieve this with the tools they had, what does that say about the capacity for innovation within us all? The mechanism's greatest lesson may be a call to respect the profound depths of our own inherited ingenuity, and to guard against the temptation to explain away our ancestors' achievements with myths. When the truth of their human genius is astounding enough, the sheer cost of such a device is a story told in its materials and craftsmanship. To commission the mechanism was to command a small fortune. The bronze alone, carefully alloyed for strength and workability, was a valuable commodity. But the true expense lay in the human capital, the months or even years of labor from a team of elite specialists. A master metallurgist to prepare the alloy, a foundry expert to cast the delicate gears without flaw, a precision machinist to file each tooth to perfection, and a master scribe to engrave thousands of microscopic letters, all working under the guidance of a brilliant astronomer engineer. This was not an object produced for a market. It was a bespoke masterpiece, the ancient equivalent of commissioning a private space telescope or a supercomputer. So who possessed the wealth and the will to fund such a project? The likely patrons move in the highest circles of the Hellenistic world. A king or a ruling family, seeking to demonstrate their power not just through military might, but through patronage of the ultimate knowledge. A fabulously wealthy merchant, perhaps from Rhodes or Alexandria, using this cosmic calculator to schedule trade voyages, and more importantly, to showcase a sophistication that rivaled any aristocrat. Or perhaps a major temple, commissioning it as a sacred instrument to schedule festivals and interpret celestial signs with unrivaled authority, a direct line to the gods engineered in bronze. In any of these hands, the mechanism served a dual purpose. It was a supremely practical tool, but it was also a potent status symbol. Owning it declared that you were not merely rich, you were connected to the fundamental order of the universe. You could hold cosmic knowledge in your hands and demonstrate its truth with a turn of a crank. This economic context transforms the mechanism from an isolated miracle into a product of a specific and remarkably supportive social ecosystem. Its existence proves that in that time and place, there were individuals and institutions who valued abstract learning and intricate craftsmanship enough to invest a kingdom's ransom in it. They created a demand that spurred this supply of genius. This system of elite patronage was the greenhouse that allowed such a rare and delicate flower of technology to bloom. Yet this very fact hints at its profound vulnerability. When that specific social and economic order, that network of wealthy, curious patrons and concentrated workshops, began to fray and collapse under the weight of political upheaval and shifting priorities, the conditions for creating such objects disappeared. The market for cosmic computers vanished. The craftsmen found other work, and their irreplaceable skills faded from memory. The mechanism, therefore, stands as a monument not only to human ingenuity, but to the delicate economic and cultural foundations that make peak ingenuity possible. Foundations that can be far more fragile than the bronze they inspire. The gears themselves are a silent language, speaking in the precise vocabulary of mathematics. Each tooth, each rotation, is a physical equation. The designers did not simply guess at the number of teeth on these bronze wheels. They calculated them with meticulous care, translating the grand, sweeping periods of the cosmos into the intimate logic of gear ratios. This is where the mechanism transcends being a mere machine and becomes applied geometry in motion. Take the delicate assembly that models the moon's subtle speed variation, its anomaly. One critical gear in that train has 223 teeth, meshing with another that has 188. These are not random numbers. They are the distilled result of centuries of patient observation, a mathematical solution to a celestial puzzle. The 223 to 188 ratio elegantly encodes the specific cycle of the moon speeding up and slowing down against the stars. But this knowledge did not originate in a Greek workshop. It began much earlier, under the clear skies of Mesopotamia. Babylonian astronomers, masterful empirical observers, had for generations recorded the motions of the heavens on clay tablets, noting patterns and compiling vast tables of data. The lunar anomaly long before the Greeks theorized about its cause. The genius of the Hellenistic era was to take this raw, observational treasure and process it through a new lens, the powerful, abstract language of Greek geometry. The Greeks asked not just when the moon would change speed, but why, seeking to model its irregular path with perfect circles and elegant proportions. The mechanism is the breathtaking offspring of this intellectual marriage. It is the moment Babylonian numbers met Greek forms. The Babylonians provided the long-term data, the empirical constants pulled from the night sky. The Greeks provided the theoretical framework, the models and the mechanical ingenuity to give those constants physical, turning form. In this one device, two great streams of ancient thought converge. One stream is river-deep with recorded fact, the other is structured with logical proof, and together they flow into a new sea of practical invention. When you turn the crank, you are not just operating gears, you are setting in motion a culmination. You are witnessing centuries of human observation from the plains of Babylon, filtered through the geometric theorems of Euclid and the cosmic models of Hipparchus, all crystallized into interlocking bronze. This fusion is its ultimate power. It showcases what happens when abstract thought is not left on the page, but is courageously translated into mechanical form. The mechanism proves that mathematics is not merely a description of reality, it can be its blueprint. The idea of the moon's elliptical orbit becomes a pin sliding in a slot. The concept of a 19-year calendar cycle becomes a spiral of engraved Greek letters. This is the dream of rationalism made solid, a universe comprehensible not only to the mind's eye, but to the hand's touch. In its quiet, precise motion, it argues that the deepest truths about our world can be found where observation meets theory, where number meets form, and where human curiosity decides to build its understanding. Tooth by tiny bronze tooth, the future of this ancient computer is being written in laboratories and on the. While we have mapped its surviving skeleton, the most thrilling chapters of its story are still being composed by researchers wielding tools that would seem like magic to its original makers. The quest now moves on multiple fronts, each promising to peel back another layer of time. Inside museum conservation labs, the focus is on seeing the unseen. New generations of imaging technology, employing multispectral scanning and even more refined X-ray techniques, are being developed to peer deeper into the mineralized crust. Their goal is to finally capture every last micron of those ghostly inscriptions, to recover words and numbers that have faded into near invisibility over two. A single new verb, a previously unknown numeral, could unlock the precise function of a mysterious gear or confirm a debated astronomical cycle. This is a patient, pixel-by-pixel archaeology of light, hunting for shadows of meaning left by a scribe's hand 2,000 years ago. In the digital realm, computational power offers another path forward. Advanced modeling software allows teams to simulate thousands of potential gear train configurations in the time it once took to file a single bronze tooth. Researchers can input every known parameter, the spaces on the main plate, the ratios implied by the inscriptions, the mechanical constraints of ancient craftsmanship, and ask the computer to solve the puzzle. Could this empty space have housed a gear train for Mars that uses a double epicyclic system? The model can test it, showing in a virtual space whether such an arrangement would actually produce the planet's characteristic loop against the stars. This digital tinkering is more than just simulation. It is a form of collaborative problem-solving with the past, where modern algorithms test the elegant solutions of an ancient engineer's mind. But perhaps the most tangible hope lies 60 meters beneath the Mediterranean sun, at the original shipwreck site. Modern archaeology is no longer about hauling up obvious treasures, it is about forensic sifting. Using precise underwater grids and sediment suction systems, teams continue to gently comb the seabed around the wreck. They are searching for the small, the overlooked, the fragments that settled away from the main pile. The dream, of course, is to find another piece of the mechanism itself, a lost gear assembly that could snap perfectly into one of those empty spaces on the front plate, instantly revealing the design for a planetary display. Even the tiniest sliver of bronze with a cut tooth could provide a crucial clue. Beyond the machine, they search for its context. A stylus, a wax tablet, anything that might hint at the person who owned or operated this device, turning its crank on a rolling ship 2,000 years ago. Simultaneously, historians are re-examining the vast library of surviving ancient texts with new eyes. Knowing what to look for changes everything. Passages in works by Cicero, or in technical manuscripts that were once considered obscure or fanciful, are now being scrutinized for descriptions of similar devices. A poetic mention of a moving sphere, or a philosopher's aside about a bronze model of the heavens, is no longer dismissed as metaphor, but investigated as potential evidence. The goal is to find the mechanism's place in the written record, to move it from a solitary artifact to a documented class of object, mentioned in the literature of its own time. This literary detective work could finally tell us what the Greeks themselves called this wondrous device. The next decade of research holds a beautiful tension. It may provide definitive, closed answers to questions that have haunted us for a century. We may finally see a complete digital and physical reconstruction of the original machine, with all its planetary pointers restored, clicking through their celestial dances. Yet every answer in archaeology has a habit of unveiling new, deeper mysteries. Solving the gear train for Venus might reveal a mathematical sophistication that forces us to redate the work of a famous astronomer. Finding a new fragment might introduce a completely unexpected function, a dial for tracking comets or predicting weather that opens a fresh frontier of inquiry. This is the enduring gift of the mechanism. It refuses to be a closed case. It remains an open conversation between the past and the future, a dialogue where each technological advance we make gives us a new way to listen. The final chapter on this ancient computer is not yet written. It is waiting in the glow of a scanner, in the silent depths of the sea, and in the curious. determined minds of those who will never stop wondering how a forgotten world could think so far ahead. That silent, turning artifact is a testament to something far greater than gears and bronze. It is a monument to a universal human impulse, the deep, restless drive to look up at the night sky and not just wonder, but to know. The mechanism is the physical embodiment of a question asked by someone 2,000 years ago who refused to accept the heavens as a beautiful mystery. They wanted to map it, to predict it, to hold its logic in their hands. This is the leap from observation to engineering, from awe to understanding. It represents a perfect, fleeting moment when human hands, a curious mind, and the materials of the earth converged to create a new kind of object. A tool that extended our comprehension beyond our natural senses. When you look at its reconstructed dials, you are not just seeing an ancient calendar, you are seeing a thought process fossilized in metal. You are connecting directly with that unknown maker, a person who sat in a workshop, surrounded by the smell of hot wax and the sound of a file on bronze, dreaming of capturing the cosmos in a box. They looked at the same moon we see tonight, tracked its same gentle wobble, and asked, "How can I make this motion here with what I have?" That is a profoundly human moment, one that echoes in every laboratory and workshop today. In our current age, where so much of our world is abstracted into streams of invisible data and silent code, the mechanism brings us back to a tangible kind of genius. There is a profound beauty in mechanical intelligence, in the clear, cause and effect poetry of a gear turning another gear. You can see the logic, you can trace the motion from the input crank to the final pointer with your own eyes. It is understanding made physical, knowledge you can hear in the gentle whir and feel in the resistance of the handle. This legacy of hands-on curiosity is its most enduring gift. It does not just tell us about the past, it speaks to anyone who has ever taken something apart to see how it works, or tried to build a model to test an idea. It champions the maker, the tinkerer, the person who believes that to truly understand a thing, you must attempt to recreate it. That spirit is why the mechanism continues to captivate engineers, artists, and dreamers. It stands as a quiet, powerful reminder that our quest to comprehend the universe is not a modern invention, but a timeless thread in the human story, woven from bronze, ambition, and an unwavering desire to find our place in the grand, ticking clockwork of the stars. This corroded bundle of gears is a message, etched not in words, but in mathematics and bronze. It speaks across 2,000 years, and its voice is a direct challenge to everything we thought we knew about the timeline of human genius. Our journey began with a storm and a diver's astonished report, leading us through the patient work of historians and the brilliant light of modern tomography. We have seen this device for what it is, a cosmic calendar, an eclipse predictor, a mechanical model of the heavens that synchronized the gods with the games. It stands as the ultimate testament to a lost peak of Hellenistic science, where the abstract beauty of geometry was forged into tangible, turning truth. Yet its very existence carries a sobering shadow, a quiet warning about the fragility of knowledge. Entire libraries can burn, craftsmen can forget their arts, and a civilization's most advanced understanding can slip beneath the waves, leaving only a single, miraculous clue. Today, as we point telescopes toward exoplanets and send probes beyond our solar system, we are engaged in the same fundamental quest as that unknown Greek engineer. To map the cosmos and find our place within it, let this ancient computer inspire more than all. Let it remind us to champion curiosity, to build bridges between disciplines, and to preserve the fragile ecosystems of learning that allow such brilliance to flourish. Most of all, let it humble our assumptions. We must never underestimate the depth of those who walked this earth long before us, who looked at the same stars and asked the same profound questions, answering them with nothing but their minds, their hands, and an unshakable belief in an orderly universe. The conversation with the past is never truly finished. What do you think the next discovery about the mechanism will be? Share your thoughts below and subscribe to join us as we continue to unravel history's greatest mysteries, one forgotten clue at a time.